Welcome. Thanks for joining us for August. Yes, it's already August. Teachers are already crying and getting themselves reorganized because they're rejuvenated, getting back into the school session.
Yep.
And we have updates for you on fun law issues, some rate stuff, and how the market's going. But first, dad joke. Once upon a time, I read about this king who's 12 inches tall. He was a terrible king, but one great ruler.
All right. So, what did the nervous avocado say to his mother?
It's giving me the pits. I pit my stomach.
Oh, pit my stomach.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start off with NAR. If you haven't been in the know, I think it's in our industry. We're in our industry all the time, so we are involved. We know about NAR, but I think the general public is like maybe 70-30, 70% like, what are you talking about? 30% like, yeah, I've been following it just to kind of see what's going on. So
Yeah.
we're just spend a few minutes just kind of going over how it pertains to you.
Okay. Today's actually the day, right?
It's today.
That the changes were made. So NAR, we keep saying NAR, National Association of Realtors. There was a big lawsuit recently, and it was this centralized in Missouri, I believe.
Yeah, it's the Midwest.
Where essentially a lot of really angry home sellers put together a lawsuit against realtors because they were unhappy that they paid exorbitant fees to sell their homes. What came of it is that now it cannot be advertised in the MLS, multiple listing service, right, that a seller is offering X amount of commission to the buyer's agent. Okay. So
there's another frustrating part of that too, semi-frustrating part as a buyer side. Now in the MLS, you can have a coming soon listing indefinitely. It doesn't have a time frame. You didn't see that part?
Oh.
So you used to have a coming soon listing for up to 21 days. That's the max.
Wow.
Now you can have it on, kind of keep it on, and buyers are just kind of like, is it ever going to be listed? What are we doing here? What's happening? From a seller perspective, if they're doing some repairs or fixing some stuff up, they can get it out there and get it marketed. From the buyer side, you really want to know, should we be waiting? When's this thing happening? And so that's another interesting feature.
Especially if you have a very specific timeline. Yeah. I still think, you can disagree with this. Coming soon for 21 days is probably already too long.
It is. Yeah. Very rarely will I have it run 21 days.
Yeah.
Usually when I put a listing in there, I'll put it up to 21 days, unless I know specifically a date, just to give my sellers a little bit of room. Because some of them are just, cleaning up a little bit, fixing this, power washing, like doing some stuff. And we're not sure exactly the date. And sometimes contractors can be a little longer than they tell you they're going to be.
Yeah.
So that's usually what I build at 21 days. And then if I get any calls or any interest, of course, you can't show the house. But you'll want to circle back with those folks that called you first and say, hey, listen, it's going to be Monday. It's going to be Saturday. It's going to be whatever, because they're obviously interested.
Makes sense. Yeah. So the commission piece, and we wanted to get this information out to those who follow us and how this might affect you as a home buyer or home seller. It's just stated that it can't be advertised, the compensation that's being offered to the buyer's agent. Is it prohibited? No, it's not. It still can be negotiated. And as someone who works alongside realtors every single day of my life, the value that they provide to you as a buyer, it is very difficult to articulate without sitting you down for hours and telling you all the little details. A lot of times you're very unaware of all the little things that go on your behalf by the realtor that you're using to represent you. So in the past, as someone that's representing buyers, Billy would show homes and he would work tirelessly, and then he knew that's the seller would end up paying his compensation. Now we have to almost have a contingency plan to say,
like a plan B setup.
Maybe out of 10 homes that you see, eight or nine of them, the sellers might still be offering to pay Billy, right? Yep. Now there might be that one or two homes. It could be the perfect home where the seller says, nope, I'm not paying Mr. William Sammons. So new conversations are having to be had with buyers to say, if that were to take place, do you have the capacity to pay your own buyer's agency compensation? It's something we've never had to talk about before. Do we think that ultimately there's going to be a lot of opportunities where you're still paid by the seller?
Yeah. There's a lot of features, a lot of conversations I'm obviously having with my sellers and my listings. Of course, the goal is to get as many buyers to line up to get into your home as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't offer that commission, that's going to limit the buyers that can afford your house. So if you think about that 2.5 or 3% that you'd be paying a buyer commission versus how much more you're going to get because there's more buyers seeing your home, from a financial standpoint, it just still makes sense to go that route.
Yeah.
You know, because you're going to make more money that way, because the buyers that have to pay their own commission now will be $10,000 to $15,000 shorter than they were before. So you have fewer buyers.
If you're a seller, you have two options. You can market it to this huge pool of buyers,
Yeah.
basically marketing it to the masses by offering to pay that buyer's agency compensation that they always have.
Yep.
Or you can market it to this much smaller pool of buyers who have the ability to pay their own agent in cash. And at least from my perspective, it makes 100% more sense to market it to the masses, because you're going to get that amount that you're paying, you're going to get it back in way of sales price and the marketability of your property.
Yeah, plus now, I mean, buyers are already often, not always, but often in need of closing help and need things that much as well. So if they're already needing a closing help, or if they didn't need closing help, now they do.
Yeah.
And so there's likely going to end up paying that anyway, because if the buyer's going to have to pay their agent, will it be a rare condition where the buyer has so much cash on hand that they can pay their agent and put the whatever 5 to 20% down, and not have to worry about all those things, plus the inspections, plus the plus.
Mm-hmm.
Versus I had the money and now you're not paying my agent, but I really don't want to go through this thing blind.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask for $10,000 in closing help to pay my agent. And so the seller ends up paying it anyway.
Yeah.
And some sellers might be all right with that, rolling the dice, but you're better off having more people coming through your door.
Now, it may also flip to the point where if you are someone that's flush with cash, you could use it to your competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And saying,
Negotiate
I'm going to pay my own buyer's agent compensation, so I don't have to ask you to do that. So we don't have to escalate this price and worry about an appraisal.
Yeah.
I'm just going to offer you list price, but I'm going to pay my agent. It's a better net to you as the seller. So could it, as a buyer, if you're someone that has a lot of cash, could it work to your advantage? Possibly.
Yeah. You may have some more leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the changes for those of us who are career real estate mortgage people. It's just a little blip in the radar, and we're just trying to educate people, because when you come to me, I get you pre-qualified. Not only am I looking at your credit, income, and assets from a loan perspective, but I'm going to take that next step and go, if you were to find a house where you can't, the seller's not going to pay bills,
what's going to happen?
Can you do it? And if the answer is no, you just probably aren't going to be able to pursue that house. Or if the house is listed for $450, you might have to offer $470 to get Billy paid.
Yeah.
So it's still a negotiating tactic.
Yep. So we're still, so it's going to be just another layer of the whole process, basically, right?
Yeah.
So most listing agents already have those conversations with the lister, but as this is a buyer's video, you need to kind of have those ideas in mind and kind of get prepared. And this is what could come up, and this is why it's coming up, and have all those things as well.
Yeah, we may have just broken some news to you that you were unaware of, but you are aware of it or you will become aware of it, because it's a big deal in our industry.
Yeah, and it's coming your way. Just an extra layer.
Mm-hmm.
And a little more paperwork, which I love. I love me some paperwork. Extra sheets. Right. All right, so but on the plus side for buyers, our rates are naturally creeping. Don't get excited yet. It's starting to creep down a tiny bit. And we don't foresee any huge dips, but we kind of think that it's going to slowly, gradually creep down like drips of water down your siding.
It's not going to be a straight line. I like that analogy. Not going to be down in a straight line, but over time, over the next coming months, year, we are going to see likely rates decline. We got a really good CPI or PPI print yesterday. CPI today was virtually flat. Yesterday, PPI, which is producer price index, that's inflation at a wholesale level, which, if you think about it, if there's inflation at a wholesale level, a lot of times it will eventually be passed on to the consumer. So when you get a producer price index, a lot of times that's an indicator what the consumer price index is going to come in at. PPI came in lighter than expectations. CPI came in relatively flat. Flat is good. Which means that inflation is kind of remaining steady, maybe it's plateaued to a certain extent. And all of that lends itself to the Fed cutting rates in September. We've said on these videos before over the last few years that the Fed hiking rates does not always mean mortgage interest rates going up. They're not completely operating on the same level. However, generally speaking, that's what has happened. As the Fed hiked rates, mortgage rates have fallen in place as well. I think the market's already priced in potentially a rate cut in September, but the next couple Fed meetings are going to be really important to what the messaging is past September.
Yeah.
If they say September is going to be 25 basis point cut and then we'll see what happens, we're not going to like that very much. If they say we're going to cut and we're going to keep cutting, that's great. If they cut 50 basis points in September and say they're going to keep cutting, that would be fantastic. I think you'll see a more significant rate drop. I think the expectation would be that they kind of inch along with the rate cuts, which means that our mortgage rates will inch lower over time. So the conversation I'm having with people now is, is there going to be a lot of activity this fall? You said yesterday you think that this fall might
feel like a spring.
Yeah, it might feel like a spring, because if rates continue to go in that direction, it's going to generate interest. No pun intended. If you're someone who already owns a home, there may be a refi opportunity if you bought in the last 18 to 24 months and your rates, 6.5 or higher. So good news.
Yeah, the conversation you and I continue to have is we all have seen, it's blatantly obvious, regardless of what news, media, or whatever you're following, that inflation happened and it was real, and they skew numbers to make themselves look good. Don't follow any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Inflation happened. It was about 20% or so from the last few years. We're all feeling it. And I think a lot of us are just kind of sitting down and recalibrating our lives, recalibrating our budgets, recalibrating and getting used to this new norm. Because let's face it, these businesses that know they can charge you X amount of dollars, they're not going down. They're going to continue to charge you those numbers. It's just going to happen, right? So we're getting used to it. We're recalibrated. And once everybody's got to get the feel for it, and we've all, licked our wounds, so to speak, then I think the market's going to readjust and everybody's going to be ready to get back out there. And you and I have this conversation frequently, that I think people are starting to get their budgets back in order, and they're starting to get themselves realigned, goals refocused. Mm-hmm. People keep track of their numbers pretty well, I think. They know now where they're at and where it's going to be, and things have slowed down a little bit and flatlined. So it's just going to slowly happen, and I think we're going to get lower rates, more people, and it's going to be a strong finish to the year, I think.
On the flip side, what we've experienced is home value appreciation still very steady, and it's not going to stop. So if you're someone that, and this is a lot of people that have been on the sidelines because you have a home to sell, and you say, I'm not pressed to make a move. I'm going to wait for things to calm down, and then I will sell my home and buy another one once I feel like things have leveled out a little bit. The good news is your home has probably continued to appreciate over that time where you're sitting on the sidelines.
Yep.
But what may have also happened is, because of all the inflation we've experienced, maybe you've racked up some debt, some personal debt, credit cards or what have you, while you're waiting in this home. So I'm having extra conversations with people to say, if you do sell this house and you're netting 150 grand from the sale,
which is happening,
we don't have to put 150 grand towards your new purchase. We could put 100 towards it and take the extra 50 and pay off all your debt. So that's, as an advisor, we look at your file from a macro level and say, what can we do with this money that's going to make the most sense?
Yep.
And it could be a clean slate for you. So that could, even though your mortgage payment's going to go up, you're maybe buying a bigger house with a bigger price, your rate's going from 3% to whatever it might be as now.
5.5.
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking at some point, hopefully high fives.
We would love that.
We love it. Praying for the high fives.
That payment might go up, but if you eliminate all the credit card debt or what, and anything else you have going on, your total monthly output could go down.
Yeah. Affordability.
Yes, absolutely. So we're looking at it differently now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and I think the conversation we're having seems to be good for everybody. Like, sit down and do your numbers, think about where you're at, think about where you want to be, start resetting those goals. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people travel, especially here in Calvert, traveled to Ocean City several times this summer, so they enjoyed their summer. Mm-hmm. I think at one point you and I joked about 80% of Calvert was in Ocean City this summer, so hope you enjoyed your beach. But I think everybody's gone out, done their things, done their traveling, enjoyed their summer, and now everybody's kind of reeling back. School's starting back up again. Everybody's used to the prices of things. Mm-hmm. Rates are becoming a little bit more manageable, so if we can help with any of those things as you reel everything back in and settle back down again and done your running around and traveling and enjoyed yourself in the summers and so forth, let us know. We're here to answer questions. to pull numbers for you, to send comparables, to just give you the information you need to help you make a big decision, because we had a lot of volatility lately, and a lot of people have no idea where they're at as far as the value of their house, as far as the rates. Like, people have no clue. Whereas in most years, it's been pretty steady. People can kind of guess, my house is worth about this, the rates are about here. It's been a little crazier, I think, lately, and our information we can give you is accurate, and it's going to be helpful.
Volatility is the ultimate enemy of our industry, because it's hard to give proper advice when you don't know where the market's going to go tomorrow. So good, bad, or indifferent, as long as there's stability in the market. And I think we're almost there for the first time in forever, because we're getting these inflation prints we've wanted. The Fed is finally able to go in the opposite direction. I think there's some stability, and it could hopefully get you to a point where you're comfortable making a move.
First time in forever. You've been watching a lot of the Ice Witch movie with your kids, haven't you?
What's that?
What's the one with Frozen? Yeah, you've been watching Frozen with your kids, haven't you?
I've seen it only like 75 times.
I caught it in there too, the first time in forever.
For the first time in forever. Now I know what you're talking about. Yes, I sure.
It was subconscious. I picked it up, but it was subconscious. But anyway, that's where we're at. Tim giving you the good numbers. I'm helping you out with values and information, seeing what you can spend, seeing where they're at, giving you realistic expectations. And we both just want to make sure that whatever we do is a win-win for what your situation is going to be. We want to slow down, take your time. There's not really a rush in the market. You don't have to make fast decisions right now. Like, you can slow down, make your decisions, pull your numbers, make sure everything works for yourself.
And if there's one thing that hasn't changed in 7 years, it's where I am right here. I'm in the same office I've been in since 2017, southbound side of Dunkirk. So please come in and sit down. We can talk about it. Let's take the time and let's kick it old school. Come into the office. I love it.
You can also Zoom and stuff too. That's always been that. That's been very convenient though. To initiate the conversation, sometimes a Zoom, a quick meeting's good, and then coming in person and finishing it up is.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of Zoom. It's like 80%.
Yeah,
it's good enough.
Yeah, but when you got to meet them in person at some point. But to get the ball rolling sometime is nice.
I'm here though. I'm here, right here, every day.
All right, sir. We appreciate your time here again today.
Always a pleasure.
We have the Vinyl and Vintage show on the 24th. That should be a hoot and or a holler. This will be record sales, vendor sales, food truck, all the good stuff.
Very good. Where's that?
Mandy Lee's in Prince Frederick, right on Main Street. She's got a little antique shop there, so she's awesome.
Very good. Kay's Lunchbox?
Kay's Lunchbox. Yeah, Karina. If you've never had her food, shame on you.
It's fantastic. It's so good.
And she's always smiling.
She's the sweetest.
Every single time. And then, so we appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoys getting back to school, getting back into the routine. Good luck getting those kids up early. That'll be a fun time as well. My kids have been sleeping until like 9-ish.
I know. We're going to have to talk about recalibrate.
All right, folks. Well, thank you very much, Tim. Thank you very much.
See you next month.
See you September.